Hello everyone, and I welcome you into our very first cricket analysis video on this channel. So obviously it's been very much NRL fantasy analysis, but cricket has been something I've played all my life and it's something I want to bring to you guys. Just in this video, we're going to be going through my reaction and my analysis to the squad that has been named for the upcoming World Test Championship, but also the Ashes series in England. So I cannot wait for that. The goal of this channel, guys, is to actually provide you with plenty of analysis. I've noticed there's nothing much there on YouTube. Really, the only analysis you're getting is from articles or when you're listening to the commentators speak at matches. So I'm going to bring you all of my reactions and all of my analysis to how the Australians go, not only in the World Test Championship, not only in the Ashes, but across the entire summer of cricket. So really, the biggest thing for me here is I have been a cricketer all my life, played first grade here in Sydney, in Australia. So very, very lucky to be able to get to play with a couple of guys that actually, well, one guy here especially that plays for Australia, and Steve Smith. Been able to play with Zampa, Phil Jakes, Shane Watson, mixture of those guys, and played against and with guys like Nathan Ellis, Chris Green. They're all my age kind of guys. So plenty of knowledge there on the playing front, and I've also coached for about 10 years. So I really hope you come along the ride with me here and enjoy this with me. So this article here was obviously just written to demonstrate the squad that has been named for the World Test Championship, which is against India in just less than a week now, which is very exciting. And then the Ashes, not far after that. It's a very quick turnaround. So yeah, super excited, as I said, to get around analyzing all this for you guys. So just to let you know, the squad that we will be analyzing here goes through the World Test Championship, but also the first two Ashes matches, and then there's a potential for a change up from there. So what we'll go through here, guys, is all 17 of those that have been picked. I'll give you my general thoughts on them, sort of break it down, what we've got with the amount of fast bowlers, spinners, the all-rounders, the batsmen, likely lineup, strengths and weaknesses, who missed out, and then I'm going to go through at the end there all of the different potential options that you've got for the players and how I think it'll line up, and then where their scores come from in all the different countries there, which is really cool. And we're obviously going to focus in on England and a little bit on India as well, which is going to be super important. Obviously, how they play our Aussies over in England as to if their spots in this team should be warranted or not. We'll get critical on a lot of players. I know a lot of everyone loves David Warner, right, at the moment. So yeah, we're going to get in there and discuss every single one of these players, from that likely lineup 1 to 11. So let's kick it off with the 17 that's been named, and then my general likely lineup before I go through any of their thoughts there. So this is in from captaincy down through alphabetical order from there. So we've got Pat Cummins, Scott Boland, the great man, Alex Carey, Cameron Green there. We've got Marcus Harris, Hazelwood, Head, Inglis, Usman Khawaja there, Marnus Labuschagne, Nathan Lyon, Mitchell Marsh, Todd Murphy, Matt Renshaw, Stephen Smith, Mitchell Starc, and also David Warner. So 17 will go over there. And that's consisted of, guys, 4 fast bowlers, so we're likely to use 3, 2 spinners. Again, in England, we're going to be likely to be using 1, 2 all-rounders, likely to use 1 there, 2 wicket keepers, again 1, and then the 7 batsmen, where we'll have a top 6 there. So the likely lineup out of that at this stage will be Warner and Khawaja up top. As openers, Labuschagne 3, Smith 4, Head 5. Cameron Green will get the nod at 6. Carey will be the keeper. Pat Cummins, Starc, Lyon, and Hazelwood as the bowlers really pick themselves. So thankfully, we are not, going into these series or, this tour with any injuries at the moment, which is great news. And what I'll, be able to discuss here is a lot of the strengths and weaknesses as well heading into these matches. And, strengths of this side right now is clearly the bowling unit. These guys have been together for a long time now. They're all fit. They're all firing. And, good thing is with Starc, if he had a little bit of a lapse in his form and his ability to control the ball and put it on the right spot and put in the right areas. And that has improved over the last sort of year as well, which has been great. Pat, obviously, is our captain. You cannot speak anything about his play out there. Maybe a little bit about his batting, but his bowling definitely not. A few people question his captaincy, which we'll speak about in a sec. But Cummins, obviously, our best bowler and one of the best bowlers in the world each and every year. Same with Hazelwood, and him over in England. We'll discuss as well how well he performs over there. Lyon in England, it's a slightly different story, but we'll discuss him, and he's obviously clearly our best bowler. The guys to miss out from that 17 that's been named. will be Matt Renshaw. I just think he's, at the moment, we will go through his stats individually. Todd Murphy is a great backup, but he's not obviously, past line, and we don't need two spinners in England. Again, something we'll discuss a little bit later. Mitch Marsh, he hasn't played a lot of long form cricket at the moment. Obviously an injury in 2020 to his ankle, I believe, kept him out of it. And I just think he needs some more game time. But he's going to be great in that squad. And if there is an injury to Cam Green, I think Marsh, obviously his bowling very similar to that of Green, and that's going to be very helpful. And then has the ability to take a game away from you. So always an understanding as to why Mitch Marsh is in the squad. So he'll miss out as well. We've got Josh Ingles that is going to miss out as our second wicketkeeper. I believe he's having his firstborn not too long, so he'll be back in Australia, but he'll be returning from there. Marcus Harris will miss out, as well as Scott Boland. So that's the guys in the squad that will miss out. And Boland's a great injury cover, but how do you fight your way into that squad at the moment? And Marcus Harris, some notes on him, and we'll speak about him in a little bit further detail. But he's obviously the backup opener, so he's our number 3 opener there. We have the extra all-rounder, we have the extra keeper, as we just spoke about, the extra bowler being Scotty there. So Marcus Harris, in terms of why he's a little bit different to someone that we'll speak about in Cameron Bancroft as someone who missed out, is he's got 601 runs there at 37.5 average there in Shield cricket back in Australia. So that's okay at best. Obviously, we want our openers to be hitting over a 40 average. Something that Warner had been in the mid to high 40s for a long time, and is back down to about a 45. So not scoring incredibly at the moment, but if you can't do that in Shield cricket, it's very hard to pick you, I think, in the Test arena. Has been playing over in England currently as well. So just as an interesting little one before we get into a little bit of a deep dive, and Marcus Harris with 601 runs at 37 in Shield cricket. We go down to some of the guys that missed out, and Cameron Bancroft was our leading run scorer in Australia at 945 runs at a 59 average. So very, very interesting how he still misses out on selection, considering Marcus Harris is in that position with how he's been scoring there. Bancroft hasn't gone as well in the recent matches he's playing. A bunch of these guys are actually playing county cricket at the moment. A lot of you would have been hearing how Michael Neser has been going, obviously scoring runs as well as taking wickets, and he is very much perfectly suited for the conditions in England. But with Scotty Boland, who's going to miss out, we all want him in the side. How do you have any spot for Michael Neser? So if there did happen to be an injury or two from the bowlers, then Neser, I think, will make the squad there, and he's doing as much as he can playing over in English conditions at the moment to get himself ready as quickly as possible. Lance Morris misses out, so the big fiery quick, he has an injury, so he's going to be out for at least the this I'll say the English summer rather than our Aussie summer. So he's hopefully going to be back for that. Pete Handscomb we'll discuss a little bit later once we go through him on an individual basis, and Matt Kuhneman played really well in India, but it's not super spin friendly conditions, and you got Lyon and Murphy ahead of him. So that's where we're at in terms of the likely lineup. The strengths now and the weaknesses is going to be a big thing, and then we'll just go and discuss as a deep dive into each individual player. Strengths there, for one, is our bowling unit. As I said, incredible at the moment, what they've been able to produce and their averages, which we'll go through in a second here. Obviously, the really cool things here, you got the batting and bowling figures of each player. So you've got David Warner there, and we can go through how he plays. This is in Australia. You can also go via opponent as well. But obviously, as we get into this, we'll get into him and how he plays in England, and obviously against England in Australia or in England. So very, very different across the board, all of these different players. And then you've got the bowling stocks as well, with some of the players a little bit later on in the fixture with Josh Hazlewood there. It's really going to be important to have a look as a deep dive into those guys. Also, as we go longer, team in our videos, obviously just stepping ahead a little bit here in the World Test Championship. There's going to be 5 days. It's going to be overnight, so a lot of the games will start around that 8 p.m. here. I'll be able to watch them and catch up in the morning, and then make a video reaction analysis for you guys who aren't able to watch it, or you're able to watch a little bit. I'll be able to react and analyze how the game was played on each of those days, along with how the Ashes plays out. I'll be here for that each morning the next day after, which is going to be great. So you can watch the highlights and then come and listen to my 15-20 minute analysis and rant on how things go. Hopefully it's good news for us Australians, but if it's not, either way, we're going to be here. And then obviously the Ashes as reactions as well, which is going to be really, really cool. So strengths there, bowling unit, it's going to be great. We'll discuss that in further detail. Marnus and Smith, obviously two of the best batsmen in the world. And then Travis Head and Khawaja, obviously in Australia, were in a lot of form. And hopefully they can bring that over to England. Khawaja on and off in India. Head obviously didn't really get to play, so that's that was a big thing as well. Well, he played on and off, and didn't select him in the first one. There's a lot of things going on there, obviously. And then confidence. I just think having a lot of wins, obviously coming into this World Test Championship, they've been winning a lot of test matches, so that's obviously great. And knowing as a player myself that confidence is everything, as you would know as well if you've played any sort of sport at any level or any part of life really. And then the recent winning form, but obviously against England as well, we did pretty well. If anyone watched the test that came out through COVID, you'll notice that we won a bunch of those games and did really well. And we won against them when they came over to Australia as well. Weaknesses, something I want to touch on as well is our left-handed batsmen in general. We have so many of them. I'm a lefty myself. Obviously the best kind, but over in England we actually do seem to struggle a bit. We know the fits that Broad gives Warner and some of those lefties, Marcus Harris when he played recently, and we just seem to be picking a lot of lefties. Plus, just we've got Alex Carey, our keeper, who's a lefty. Thankfully our two best players, the right-handers, and they seem to do really well over in England, which we'll discuss. But that's something definitely to be worried about. And it's not limited to Head or Khawaja. They both had their own issues against England in England. So that's something to note as well. And our batsman depth. So we've got Renshaw and Harris as our two lefties in depth that they haven't really gone too well over there either. So that's something to think about if we do happen to have an injury or two, or if guys aren't scoring super well. Just say Warner struggles a bit and everyone's calling for his head. Do you bring in, can you bring in Marcus Harris? Is he going to do much better than what Warner's able to put up? So really, we want to get behind Warner and hopefully he can come out and do really well. So that's the strengths and weaknesses. So really now I just want to delve into all of those selections there from 1 to 11 in order there of how they're going to line up. So we're going to start with our openers, and let's have a deep dive into Davey Warner. So let's look at his overall average to start off things, and he's sitting at a 45.58, and that's obviously gone down a little bit over the last year or two as well. And something to note that we'll discuss in a further video, but over the end of players' careers, we have Warner and also Khawaja at 36 years old. Through the last couple of years of the majority of really good players' careers, you even look at someone like Tendulkar, and his average went from in the mid 50s the high 50s for the majority of his career, and the last 2 years he was averaging in the mid 30s. So it was a big percentage drop in his average there. So that's something that you're seeing from Warner at the moment, and really him playing over in England, it's going to be very, very interesting, which we'll go through in a second. You see his average there of 26 when he plays in England and Wales. So 58 in Australia. You got Bangladesh in here, but we'll look at some of the countries they play more games against. India 21.79, not great. South Africa is a good one, very, very similar to the conditions of Australia. The UAE's got a couple of matches there as well, and everywhere else is very low. So that's something to note there for sure. But let's click into England there, and when he has a bat over in England, and then when he plays them in Australia. So 51.5 is his average at home. 26 is the average over in England and Wales. So not good news. And that's something that I think is going to be very much a hot topic as we go through this Ashes series especially. And I really hope that up against India in this World Test Championship, that Warner can find some form, because that is something that is super concerning at the moment, is that 26 average when he plays in England and Wales. So when they come over to Australia, even Broad can give him some issues there. So if Broad's fit and raring to go, the English guys have a few injuries at the moment with Jofra, Anderson going through a few things, but we'll get into that obviously a little bit closer when I preview the Ashes. But we have the World Test Championship first, but I just want to give a little bit of an insight into how Davey and all of these players play in England in their career. And that's a lot of innings, guys. That's 13 matches. It's almost the same as the 15 in Australia, 25 innings compared to 26. He has no hundreds in England and Wales. He has 4 ducks and 750. So not great overall. His strike rate seems to be surprisingly higher in England. So he tries to get on with it a little bit more than he does in Australia, which is very strange, isn't it? How that plays out for sure. So get rid of these as we go. Let's go to Usman there. And you look at, obviously, someone that now has a higher average than David Warner in test matches, which is pretty crazy at 47.82. And he seems to score fairly well across multiple continents, multiple countries there. So 55 in Australia, which is awesome. Majority of players you'll see, guys, they play better on their home soil, in front of their own fans, which is great. More comfortability. You're not traveling. You're with your family. There's a lot of things that come into that for sure, and the conditions is the biggest one. England, 12 innings, 19.67. We'll delve into that in a sec, but he plays pretty well in India. 47 in his 7 innings, so obviously played okay over there. New Zealand, good for his 3 innings. Pakistan, obviously great there for 165 average. South Africa, a little bit low. Sri Lanka, low, but UAE, the 76 as well. So let's break it down. In England there, obviously, as I said, against England, in Australia, averages 53.83. So that's good news, but when he goes over to England, it's a 19.67. Just bear in mind, guys, that this is when the majority of these matches were when he wasn't in this type of form. So he's in much better form. I would expect him to get a little bit more over a 30 average at a minimum. If he can get a good score or two in that first match in this World Test Championship against India, where he scored fairly well against them over in India, I think he'll be able to build some confidence and improve that average that he has in those 12 matches over against England in England. So again, not super exciting news. And just note, guys, that is 2 left-handers that we have spoken about so far. And so now we move to Marnus, and things changed a little bit. He has a pretty solid average against everyone. He has 4 matches in the UAE, which is a little bit low at 20, but everything else from there, the lowest is the 34 in Pakistan, 40 in India there, 49 in Sri Lanka, but 50 against England. And that's obviously when he got called up when Steve Smith went down injured, and he currently averages 70 in Australia, which is absolutely incredible. It's just crazy how well he scored over there. And he has 37 innings out of his 64. So he has 27 away from home, 37 at home. So a lot of people, when they say, oh, is Marnus one of the best to ever play the game, considering he has a 57.5 test batting average at the moment, that's something to note, that a lot of his games have been in India. And I think this series for him is going to be not career defining, but it's definitely going to go a long way to, if he can come out an average close to 50, I think over in England, he's going to go down. If he can do that for a couple more Ashes series, he'll go down as one of the best batsmen to ever play the game. So that's something that is obviously a lot of pressure, but him being a very important player for our Australian side. Given he's a right-hander as well, I think that's very important. And when I say that, guys, is the main issue that us Aussies face against England with the right-hander around the wicket is that they can, to the left-hander, from the right-hander around the wicket, is they can attack the stumps, and then that little bit of movement away that Broad gets brings in the nicks. So some will go straight, some will swing back in, some will swing away a tad. He has every different option. The issue with them trying to get our right-handers out is they don't have that left-hander that can come around the wicket and provide the same thing that Stuart Broad can do. So attack the stumps and then seam it away. Whereas you've got Anderson, who can do in and out. He can swing in and out, obviously move it off the seam as well. And the conditions in England are suited to swing and seam bowling, which is great for our bowlers as well. Both teams have an advantage in their bowling lineup, that's for sure. But they don't have that lefty to be able to do that. Anderson can bowl nice and straight and then do a little bit off the deck, but he just doesn't have that angle to be able to do that. And he's not someone that will move off to the left and drive it into the stumps and then do something from there. So that's where the big advantage comes in for our right-handers, which we just don't have enough of. But Marnus here with the 41.88 average in Australia against England in the 9 matches, obviously showed that how well he played in those 7 games in England. Obviously in the Ashes in 2019 was massive, where he picked up 4 really good 50s and kind of saved us when Smithy went down, that's for sure, and came in and got that massive score. So a 50 average from him, if he can do that again and continue and keep that 50 average, it's going to be amazing for us to be able to win the Ashes there. Steve Smith, obviously a 59.8 average. He is amazing. We know that. And average across the board from places where he has played a decent amount of test matches. South Africa is actually his worst, with a 41 in the 11 matches, innings that he's played there. Let's drag it down to Australia against England at home and also away. He gets better. 65. So Smith is the key. Smith and Marnus, if they can average, well, if Smith can go 65, which he has done for 26 innings, absolutely incredible. If he can keep that up, then it's going to go a long way for us to, as Aussies, to win the Ashes, which is going to be huge. Marnus, as I said, those are the two important guys, and why I had them as our strengths, and just such an important way of us winning this. There's not much else to say. Although Smith, we just need him to play really well, because I'm really worried about a lot of the left-handers. Let's talk about Travis Head. So he has 57 match innings there with 32 in Australia. Averages 57 in Australia and a total of 45.4. In England, which is our most important one here, he actually scores really well in India as well, in the 6 innings that he's played. And that's coming off a couple of games that he played recently, and was able to do really, really well. 59 average against against England in Australia, which is awesome. So at least he knows, when he does face those bowlers, he's some type of being comfortable. In England, on the other hand, though, 27 is the average. So again, another really low average in an opposing team's territory. Not exactly what we want, and it doesn't really get much better, to be honest. So, as I said, it really lies in our two right-handers. Again, a left-hander that hasn't got a great average over in England, and I'm a little bit worried about that. But again, Travis Head is one of those guys that's definitely in form. Obviously did really well in all of his games in recent time in Australia, but how's that going to translate to England? That's the big one there. Let's talk about Cameron Green. So a couple of things to speak about. We've got his batting and also his bowling to go through there. 37.6 is his current average. Obviously a youngster, 28 innings so far. 32 average in Australia. 67 in India in the 2 games that he played. 51 in Pakistan. So he does like playing in India and Pakistan. There you go. Not many do. Not many Aussies do anyway. Just, the averages seem to drop for the most part. And he's also played in Sri Lanka. So he actually hasn't played in England yet. And I am personally very worried at how he's going to go as a batsman in England, just because of his technique at the moment. He just seems to be a little bit shaky, a little bit less confident around his batting. And I hope that, obviously performing pretty solidly in the IPL is going to be helpful for him. Where we're most interested in Cammy Green, if we can get a 35 average out of him, like he has right now, 37.6, then I think that's going to be great. But if he goes under that 30, it's going to be very, very tough for the Australians to win there. We need those lefties to play above their weight, which is something that's yet to be seen. It's something that we are obviously a little bit worried about heading into these series. But let's look at his bowling now, and overall he has a 34 average. Doesn't have a wicket in India or Sri Lanka, but his average in Pakistan is 67 overs of 57, not ideal. And obviously has really only bowled in Australia, apart from that 67. So, decent amount of wickets there, 20 in the 167 overs, gets him a nice strike rate of 50 and 24.75 average, which is, as good as most full-time pace bowler. So exactly what we want. I think his bowling will go to another level in England, and that's where I think his importance is going to be. But we do need him to be able to average over 30, and if he doesn't, I think we're going to be in a fair bit of trouble. So Cameron Green will be the guy picked, and we need him to step up as he gets that little bit older. Still a youngster, but very, very important for us as Australians over in England. All right, Alex Carey has a 33 average in Australia, 59 in 3 innings in Pakistan, and 44 in Sri Lanka. 9 average in the 6 innings that he played in India. Not good at all. But this is very different conditions. And Carey, great wicketkeeper, great ODI, great T20 batsman. What he hasn't shown yet is the ability just to average a 35 or 40 in Test cricket. Again, another left-hander, something that we do need to worry about at the moment. And we have nothing to go off in England for him. He hasn't played a lot of I was going to say Sheffield Shield, a lot of county cricket in obviously in England, and this is a big test for him. Can he do it? And you've got Josh Inglis as a backup. I don't think that he's the man either. So Carey, we're going to be going all in on him. I know a lot of us have plenty of faith, but we do need to see an over 30 average from him in England. We need to see at least 30 for Green, at least 30 for Carey, and we need one of those the 3 guys I spoke about in the top order in Warner, Khawaja, and Head to be a 45 guy as well. We need at least 3 in this outfit to be able to win, I believe. So Carey, wicket keeping speaks for itself, but the batting still has some room to go. Let's look at Pat Cummins now. So really, really good news for him is when he plays in Australia, he averages 20, which is just ridiculous. When he plays in majority of other countries, he averages really well also. India is his worst. England, Bangladesh. England, even better. All right, so we have a 19 average for him. A 10 average when he plays in England and Wales, which is for his batting. Oh, God. For his bowling, 19.62, like I said, is the average for him. Best bowling at 4 for 32, so even room for improvement there. He's played a few less matches in England, but still the average is great. 21.5 in Australia, 19.6. So he'll be amazing. He bowls that terrific line and length. Not worried about Pat and his bowling at all. Some people would like to speak about his captaincy, and obviously, when Smithy came in and had to captain when Cummins was away, a lot of people were happy with him tactically. So I think Pat does need to grow a little bit more. If people to notice Smithy's differences and how he's really on the ball, he's obviously very fidgety and doing a lot of things. Thinks the game great. He's obviously lives and breathes cricket, and that's why he can obviously be a decent captain as well, because he knows how to anticipate different batsmen and how they go about things. And Pat obviously thinking a lot about his bowling as well, being one of the the first bowler in a long time that has been captain. It's something that he's going to have to work out a little bit more as well, and work out how to manage both things of getting his rest and thinking about bowling changes and thinking about fields as well. Because a lot of the time he's pretty cooked after his bowling. That's where having a wicketkeeper who can see the play great, or a batsman who's in the slips or whatever that can just see the game. They're just focused on the field where everyone is, and tactics basically is what you're looking at. So that's something to look at in these series as well, how he comes out of it, and we'll react and analyze how he goes in each one of those games as well. Mitch Starc, all right, go to his bowling as well, and average 27.5. He's obviously our strike bowler. Not as good of an average across the board, apart from when he plays in Sri Lanka and the West Indies, apparently. But yeah, he's kind of just solid in all of the other places. In England, he is okay, 28.9. Against England in Australia, he seems to dominate at 22 average, but has more innings in England. So we've got a bigger sample size there. That's his batting. Again, I continue to miss that. But 31 average in England. Sorry, a little bit worse than what I just said in that one. 24 in Australia against England there. So yeah, 31, a lot more to be desired there. I think he needs to improve on how he played last time, and I think he will. I think he's going to be a good change up to the terrific line and length bowling that we get from Hazlewood and Cummins, their strike bowling there, and Stark's that awesome guy that we'll be able to trouble the right-handers for England if he can get it right. And that's the thing. That's the issue, and the problem we usually see with him is the ability to just not always get it right. That's Starkey at the moment. I think hopefully he's in for a big tour, and if he's not, then we've got Boland to come in and do a job. And depends how green he goes as well. So there's a lot to it, but Starkey being the left-hander is a good change up. All right, Hazy, 25.83 is his average. He has a pretty solid average across the board there. Only the 4 games in South Africa, but yeah, not a great average there. And let's look at how he goes in England. And it is a 23.58 average, which is awesome. So not as good as Cummins, much better than Starkey there. And I just think he's a terrific bowler, and he's always around that top 3 best fast bowlers in the game. 25.75 in Australia. He performed better in England, and this is where I say that we have a much better bowling lineup as one of our strengths than our batting currently. Let's go to Nathan Lyon. This is the interesting one. Obviously, Gary the GOAT, 31 average across the board, which is pretty normal. That higher sort of high 20s to 30s average for our spin bowlers across the board, all countries, all players there. Batting averages 24 in Australia, pretty cool. 12 in England. Bowling there, he averages 27.6 against England in Australia. He's obviously a terrific bowler in Australia because of the turn and the bounce that he gets there. And in England, not as good. In India, also not as good. Like, he's solid, but he's not one of the better bowlers because of the overspin that he gets on it. He gets a lot more wickets in Australia through bounce, the dip and bounce, rather than through sheer turn. England and Wales, sometimes it will skid on a bit. Sometimes you will get that turn and bounce where it works for him. And other times you will get some good turns. It's a little bit different across the board, but most of the time the spinners are easier to face than the pace bowlers, which is why we'll analyze a few of the spinners from England as well. You'll be able to look at their averages across the board there as well. So Nathan Lyon is our lovely man. We love him, right? He has so many wickets, obviously, and he has 101 here in Australia. and again and in England against England, which is so cool. So yeah, congrats to him for an awesome career. We just need him to be stock standard. If he can do that, then I think we'll have the edge spin bowling wise, and just be how we go with the batsmen is going to be the big thing. Now, I just wanted to look at 3 of the batsmen before we finish up here. And a big thank you to all of you guys for jumping in and analysing and previewing this squad. This is going to be the one where it's a little bit contentious because we've seen all of the averages from all of the batsmen so far. Let's look at 2 guys that have missed out and one that is actually in there at the moment in Matt Renshaw. So, yeah, let's get into that now. Cameron Bancroft, and then we'll finish off with Marcus Harris as well, which will be very interesting. I haven't got him up there yet, but we will. So, Bancroft's batting. All right, so he has a 26 average in Test cricket. One of those guys that has found it very, very difficult to translate from Sheffield Shield cricket in Australia, playing in England in general, over there in county, and then transferring it to the Test career. And a 26 average, obviously a decent average there in South Africa, when it all went wrong, obviously, but 37 there. 25 average in Australia, not great. You see the majority of our Aussie cricketers dominate in Australia, but in England, he's obviously got an average 11. So there's a reason why he hasn't been selected, and that is why at this point. So if anyone looking at him and going, oh, wow, he scored so well, he's in form, there's that, but then he hasn't been able to translate it in 18 innings to the Test arena, unfortunately. Peter Handscomb, a little bit different. He has a 37 average in 35 innings there. 47 in Australia, which shows he's able to do it. Like I've said, a right-hander, something to think about there. Didn't make the squad though. 48 average in the 4 innings in Bangladesh. He has not yet played in England. And in India, the 28 average. So he was pretty solid, to be honest, from what he could provide for us. And 2 innings in South Africa for a duck and a 24. So there's that. But something I wanted to note here is Handscomb actually helped them win the county championship, which was awesome. So he got 100 in their first innings and then got 68, I believe, in the second there. So really, really cool. An unbeaten 68 following a century there, which is great. And he's 31 years old. He's coming into his own. He knows, the type of game he wants to play. And you could see that in India. He had a real good game plan and stuck to it. So they brought him in for that role. And it seems to be that's when they like to play him. It's in Australia a little bit, and then mainly just in India, and they won't pick him anywhere else. So, he's over there playing at the moment. I think that's great news, and he's able to do a job. So, if they do need a guy to come in, I would suggest it should be Handscomb over Bancroft. Yeah, Bancroft you could use an opener, but how excited or how keen on him as an opener are we? How keen on are we on someone like Marcus Harris as well? So. Yeah, that's something to look at, which we'll go through Marcus in a second when that all loads. So, big thing here with Renshaw, he has a 29 average, so not super exciting. He has a 64 average in Australia, but that involves an 184. So you take that away, he's got 136 runs in 6 innings, which isn't really good. That's a 20-odd average. He has 19 average in Bangladesh. He has a 21 average in India. He looked all at sea in those games in India of recent time, and then a 6.5 in 2 games for South Africa. So again, someone that hasn't played over in England yet. He's in that squad, and I'm not exactly sure why. They do love him in there. I personally would have Handscomb in that middle order before I would have Matt Renshaw, especially with the types of issues that we have when we play up against the Broads and Andersons when they come around the wicket. So I would be going for Handscomb in that middle order rather than him there. So let's talk about Harris to finish things off. And big thank you for all of you guys for coming in and seeing this here, and checking this video out. And I appreciate all you guys that from the NRL Fantasy Analysis channel. I really appreciate you guys coming in and checking things out. Let's finish it off with our Marcus Harris, and then you can see there how it all plays out. So he has only played in Australia. He has a 30 average, and he has 6 innings in England and a 9.6 average, and somehow he keeps getting picked. So if he happens to get picked as an opener, I won't be very excited, to be honest with you. We saw what happened last time. It wasn't good, and I very much hope it doesn't happen again. Things will happen across the next obviously week. We'll get the final squad, the obviously final 11 for the Test Championship in less than a week now, which I'm super excited for. I will break down each of those days against India. I will do a preview in a few days' time as well on Australia versus India in that one. So I can't wait for you guys to check that one out as well. And a big thank you all for stopping in for this video. There will be plenty more to come as we go along. We'll also get into some deep dives around guys like David Warner, why Marnus and Smithy are so good. We'll look at Virat Kohli and some of these players overseas as well, and show you how good they are and why they're so good as well in terms of you're looking at their specific stances, how they how late they play the ball, the types of shots they avoid, their temperament, discipline, everything like that. We'll get into it, and I can't wait to show you all of that, guys. See you later.